Hey, this is Warren Redlich with the AI Stocks Report. We have got for you a deep dive today on Google I/O that's coming up, a lot of stuff that's happening with Google Gemini, other Google products, and how that relates to the AI world we're facing. We're going to have personal issues I'm having both with Google and with Grok today that suggest that inference is a real problem. Chamath Palihapitiya has been talking about these inference problems. He's experiencing them with Anthropic. We're going to talk about what's coming up with the AI stocks this coming week. We're going to talk about a variety of other interesting AI issues, including what's going on with memory. Tomorrow, we're going to have a mini deep dive on NVIDIA. Today, it's a mini deep dive on Google. Are you ready? Let's go. Google's I/O conference starts tomorrow. There's a whole lot going on there. The stock market is going to be watching this closely. There's a lot of things to see about, and this is really, if you're a long-term investor, you want to see, is Google going to deliver on all the advantages it has in AI? They seem to be rebranding large parts of their ecosystem to model to Gemini Intelligence, AI native Android Chrome search, and AI native devices. The street wants evidence that Gemini is becoming a true operating layer, not just a chatbot app. And the buzz centers on proactive AI assistance, autonomous task execution, persistent context memory, multimodal workflows. Can they monetize this without destroying search economics? Can they get agentic AI working like some others have it working? And I'll just want to point out here my own personal experience, like just today. You saw at the beginning of this video, I have a vertical video clip that I use. And the idea is when I make these videos, can I engage my audience more by giving you guys some kind of clip? Whether you stay with the video longer, and that's, as a creator, I want you to stay with the video longer. So if I can give you some appropriate eye candy at the start of the video, maybe you stay longer. So I asked Google Gemini, I paid $20 a month for Google Gemini, and I asked it to give me video format, and I specifically said 9 by 16, have the Google logo and the Gemini logo chase each other around on a deep space background. This is the Gemini logo? That's not the Gemini. It says Gem Glow. What Gemgle? How does Google's own AI video generation not know what the Gemini logo looks like? It didn't do it vertical, it did it horizontal. And then it says at the bottom, you can generate one more video today. I'm paying $20 a month and I get two videos a day that you get wrong? That's not impressive. So when you're looking forward, you're like, is Google going to deliver on the promise? They have this brilliant AI team. Are they able? And by the way, it's not just Google. Chamath has been criticizing Anthropic. What happened to me today? I was trying to. Normally, I generate these videos on Grok. Grok is experiencing issues. We're working on restoring service as quickly as possible. I wasn't able to generate videos at all on Grok Imagine. I have a high level account on Grok. It's not the super high Grok heavy level, but I'm a premium plus member, and I normally generate videos on Grok, and it's 4 a.m., 5 6 a.m. in America. It's not like it should be that busy. So issues with everybody. We'll show you Chamath's issues later. But let's get back into what's coming with Google I/O and why this matters for long-term investors in Google, which I am now a long-term investor in Google. I'm in Nvidia. I'm in, my biggest by far is Tesla, but I'm also in Nvidia, and now I'm in Google as well recently. So this may be the single most important business topic at I/O. Google's traditional search model is under pressure from ChatGPT, Perplexity. I don't know about Perplexity, AI native discovery, conversational search. The reality is my Google search volume is down a lot. I am paying for Chat. I'm paying. By the way, I'm paying now for Grok, ChatGPT, and Gemini. I already day one. I have regrets about paying for Gemini. Like if this is how I'm going to get my experience on my day one experience, that's not very promising for me to continue my Gemini membership. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to judge it on day one. Wall Street wants clarity on AI monetization, Gemini powered search, ad integration, query economics, and user retention. I am seeing Gemini a lot when I use YouTube Studio, when I use YouTube, when I use Google Maps. A lot of places I'm seeing Gemini. I'm not saying it's that helpful yet in most contexts. It's actually pretty disappointing in most contexts. But if they improve, they have the footprint to make AI everywhere as long as they can get their models working better. The fear that Wall Street has is that AI answers reduce clicks and weaken Google's ad machine. And I think if you're paying attention, I talked about this previously. OpenAI is developing an ad system to work within ChatGPT. So there's definitely revenue that could be made there, and there's projections that OpenAI will make a lot of money on ads within ChatGPT. The bull case is that Google Gemini becomes the default AI interface for billions of users, and that's why every Gemini search announcement matters so much when you're looking at investing in the stock. If Google is stuck in its search model that's going to be destroyed by AI, then Google is not a good investment. If Google is going to be able to use its status as a hyperscaler with massive ability to deliver inference compute with its TPUs and everything, and it delivers a frontier model that delivers really good results, which they should, but they don't always, and hopefully they get better and they have a great team, so we'll see, then they may become the dominant player in AI, and they could, the value could go up 10x, which is Elon's prediction, by the way. I'm not sure. Based on my experience with Google Gemini, I'm not convinced. I'm waiting to see, are they going to step up their game? Like, you have great people, but are they distracted? Is Demis Hassabis distracted by too many other things? Is the DeepMind team busy with, fancy science projects and not delivering useful chatbot AI and video generation AI to consumers like us? If you're not going to compete for that space aggressively, you might not get it. If you go back many years, it was Mac versus Windows, and Mac was clearly superior and still is, but Windows dominated. So it's not always the best that wins. It can be just you got in front of people more and people chose you were good enough that you didn't make me go use Anthropic or ChatGPT or Grok. So that Google does have that big advantage, and it may play in their favor even if they're not the best model. Gemini's video generation, Veo and AI video are suddenly strategic. I didn't have a good experience with it today. Became much hotter after the recent reporting about Chinese firms like ByteDance and Guizhou advancing rapidly in video generation. We're going to talk about that later in this video. Google's Veo models are widely considered among the best technically. Not what I just saw. The buzz now is, can Google commercialize fast enough? Can Veo become YouTube native? Can Google dominate AI video creation and distribution? Wall Street sees YouTube and Veo and Gemini as potentially one of the strongest AI media ecosystems in the world. Like I said, based on my limited experience, one attempt, not impressed. I have to give it more of a run. This directly connects to creator tools, advertising, AI filmmaking, synthetic influencers. We'll see. They have this IO event coming. How much are we going to see of that? I've got a little bit of a preview of what's coming at the IO event, but I'm just going to give you an idea of what the buzz is, and then we're going to talk about what they're actually going to talk about in the event. Maybe there's going to be more released. Android is a possible star. There's growing excitement around Android XR, Gemini powered glasses, AI native wearable computing. I don't think so. I think we've tried AI wearable computing. I don't think that our phones have enough compute to be useful edge inference. So I'm not sure how. If your phone is connected to the internet and you're using it for ChatGPT or whatever, I don't know why it matters that you have an Android. So I have an Android phone. I have ChatGPT on it. I have Claude on it. I have Gemini on it, and I have Grok on it. What are you going to do on Android that's going to make me use Gemini more? I'm not sure. And is that going to be an antitrust problem if you do? Maybe Wall Street thinks this. Apple has Vision Pro. Meta dominates smart glasses momentum. OpenAI wants AI first hardware. I don't think. I just don't think that we're seeing these vision interfaces mattering. There may be some new interface coming that's going to matter, but so far, the vision interfaces have not impressed me or anyone else. No one who gets them uses them long term. So unless there's some really game changing change, I doubt that that's really the driver. Several analysts think AI glasses may ultimately matter more than phones. Neuralink might matter more than phones. I'm not sure glasses are going to matter, especially if multimodal assistance improves, latency falls, and context awareness improves. We'll see. I have not seen yet that this VR stuff is going to matter, but there's some buzz about that. So we'll see if we see something in the I/O presentations that points that way that Wall Street jumps on. GoogleBook is something we saw. Google succeeded somewhat with Chromebook in the past, so now they have some sort of GoogleBook that's got AI first computing. Again, does it have enough compute to deliver meaningful edge inference? The first truly AI native personal computing platform. Is this real or is this BS? What does that mean? People are watching for deep Gemini integration, agentic workflows. Is it? Yeah, if you have agentic workflows built into it where I can say, hey, go have Gemini do this task for me, then do it again, and iterate in this way. If that's built into these laptops, that could be something special. I just downloaded Hermes to my MacBook because I'm doing a particular project, and Hermes is the next as a competitor to OpenClaw. If you're going to make that easy on a laptop to do agentic work, that could be big. We'll see if that's what they're really doing. I wonder if it's just fluff. Let's hope. I mean, as now a long-term Google investor, and frankly, as a person who wants to see AI succeed and make our lives better, let's hope they're going to get somewhere with it. Developers want agentic tools. Look, the reality is, I'm not even a developer. Most developers using Claude or Codex, ChatGPT Codex, or Anthropic's Claude. I've been using Grok. Grok has come out with some new tools. I haven't heard anybody talk about using Gemini for coding. Maybe it's there. And I do think it's going to, they potentially have a big advantage coding for Android. They do have a big advantage coding for certain contexts, but none of my friends are talking about using Android for coding. I don't know what you're hearing. So, are they going to deliver some kind of meaningful coding? Or are they going to say, you know what, the other guys are winning coding, we're going to move on and fight some other battles? Or are they going to, if it's Google, like I think it is, Google's going to try to fight every battle, and hopefully they don't put waste, hopefully they don't waste too much time on something that they're not good at. Maybe they are good at it. Maybe they're going to kill on this. We'll see. They definitely, they have the biggest advantages. They have the inference compute, and we're seeing Anthropic limited on inference compute. I've experienced OpenAI limited on inference compute. I don't know what's going on today with Grok. Maybe there's a limit on inference compute. So if Google has the most access to inference compute, that gives them the ability to win in everywhere if they get good enough. Wall Street wants proof Google can move faster. Google is widely respected technically. Google DeepMind outstanding. The TPU infrastructure, the tensor processing units, they basically have their own chips instead of relying so heavily on NVIDIA, which may give them an advantage in hyperscaler and providing large scale inference compute. They have their chips made through Broadcom, and that saves them some money and delivers them more specifically the type of the custom ASICs, the type of GPUs or TPUs they want for their approach to AI. They're respected for their frontier multimodal models. I like, my personal gut right now is Gemini's number four. It's the four are high up and they're all roughly even, but Gemini's number four for me, and it's not. It's a clear number four. Like, Grok is really good, ChatGPT is really good, and Claude is really good. Claude has some limitations as a chatbot. ChatGPT is probably best as a chatbot. Grok's also very good as a chatbot. Claude's probably the best at coding. Codex is very good at coding. Grok is getting very good at coding. Video generation for me until today, Grok was the best at video generation. I think it probably still is, but we'll see. And I think through DeepMind, they're also like widely respected for world-class research. But can they deliver products to customers that are good enough, fast enough to get there? Are Larry Page and Sergey Brin and the rest of the Google team getting in there and Demis and saying, "Hey, we got to get this stuff out to customers. We got to stop goofing around. We got to get rid of the bureaucracy that's in the way." Are they there? Can Google behave like an AI first company, or are they stuck like a search incumbent? That there are there is their bureaucracy, is the woke mind virus inside Google too difficult for them to overcome to achieve what they need to achieve? I can't say this enough. I have been saying for at least a couple weeks now, certainly since I started this content pivot to AI stocks report, inference is everything. You have the best model, you don't have enough inference. I see demand going up 1,000x. I had this conversation a bunch of times. Demand's going to go up 1,000x. Supply is going to go up 10x. Supply the efficiency of the compute is going to go up 10x, and that means 100x effective increase in supply. But demand is up 1,000x. So the question is, who can really scale inference the most? And Google is in the best position of the four major players in America to scale inference the most. They have the most cash. They have their TPU infrastructure. They're good at that. Can they make their models good enough so that we say, yeah, I know ChatGPT's a little better, Anthropic's a little better, Grok's a little better, but when I want to get something done, it's there and it's not crazy expensive on Google. Can they do that? That part, I think they're in the best position for that. And whatever their bureaucracy is, they might still be fine. If people have trouble getting NVIDIA chips and Google can get TPUs from Broadcom, they're good there. There's a Wall Street thesis that NVIDIA dominates merchant AI compute. I'm not sure what that means. Do you mean training compute? I'm not sure. And Google may dominate internal AI efficiency. I'm not sure about that language. The biggest meta theme that we'll see if they deliver this in Google I/O is that the deeper interpretation, it's not here's a better chatbot, because they're not doing that. It's you have Gemini everywhere. You have Gemini in search. Yes, I see that. You have Gemini in Chrome. I see that. Gemini in Android. I haven't noticed it in my Android yet. Gemini in cars, haven't seen it. Glasses, laptops, YouTube. YouTube, I've seen it. Gemini in Workspace. In Gmail, maybe it's in my Gmail and I haven't noticed it. Can you push towards an ambient, pervasive AI infrastructure? I love this language. If you're using a lot of Google stuff, right? You're using YouTube, you're using Gmail, you're using Google Maps, and all of a sudden there's AI there that's useful. It's a big if. Then maybe Google ends up On the one hand, we have more inference compute than anybody else. On the other hand, we have more footprint than everybody else. And if it's good enough, then it doesn't have to be the best. It has to be good enough. Can they make it good enough? Can they offer enough that people want? And a lot of people are focused on, well, you're not winning in agentic AI. You're not winning in developer AI. The developer side of AI is a very, very small share of the potential market for AI, right? The potential market for AI is, everyone. The developers are, less than 1% of the world's population. They have high demand, but if you can deliver AI in a way that 90% of people want to use it in high volume, and you can supply the inference to match that, then you're going to be the biggest winner. And this is why I invested long term in Google. I explain more about my long term investment in Google. I have subscriber only, supporter only options videos that if you are a subscriber on the X platform, if you are a YouTube channel member, if you're a Patreon supporter, you can get access to my series of options videos. There's going to be another one this week where I talk about long term options, my metric for measuring the long term investing through long term call options and how it reflects on long term investing just through regular stock buying. I think this is useful for everybody. It's especially useful if you're interested in options. So please support me on one of the three platforms as a YouTube channel member, as an X subscriber, as a Patreon supporter. We're going to do a little bit more on Google I/O, but just a quick recap of the week of AI stocks. This is the AI stocks report. You can see that Palantir finished the week up 2.5%, 2.7%. Google finished up. The rest of the stocks were down a bit, AMD and ASML in particular, Tesla down a bit more. A lot of this is just volatility. The AISR index, AI stocks report index, up down 2% on the week, up 6% since we started on April 30th. You see a lot of change here. There's a lot of volatility. AMD has been particularly volatile recently after their banger earnings report. Palantir has been volatile after their banger earnings report. Tesla's always volatile. ASML, surprising volatility from basically a monopoly that everyone needs and has no problems that I'm aware of. It's a Dutch lithography company that's necessary for the fabs. I think TSMC and Nvidia have been a bit more stable in this group of stocks. We'll talk about what we see coming forward for these stocks after we finish talking about Google I/O. So I signed up for Google I/O, and this is a list of talks that are going to be available. This is day one, and then day two I'll show you next. What's new in Google AI? What's new in Android? What's new in Chrome? Agent first workflows from prompt to production in cloud. Why is that part of cloud? Build next generation AI experiences with Google AI Studio and Google Anti-Gravity. What's new in Google Play? I may be very busy tomorrow. Unlock modern web capabilities in your AI coding workflows in Chrome. That's a Chrome thing? Are we coding for Chrome? Is that the idea? What's new in Firebase Cloud? This is a lot of technical stuff for a lot of tech. I don't know how general this is to most developers. I don't know if they're going, maybe they're saying we want to deliver this kind of stuff for people who are developing for our products and we don't care about people who are developing for Mac OS or iOS or Windows or web. I don't know. What's new in the Gemma open model family? What's new in Android development tools? What's new in web UI? Yeah, Android's obviously a huge market. If they should succeed. They should dominate coding for Android. And Chrome is also a huge market, and Chrome is my preferred browser. So if they can dominate there, that's good too. What's new in Flutter? I don't even know what Flutter is. Defining the agentic AI era. That may be more of a broad talk. Scale AI with Google's TPU software stack. Adaptive development for the expanding Android ecosystem. Supercharge your AI coding workflow with Chrome DevTools. Again, coding for Chrome. Building the quantum AI future. And last, we got the last set of talks. We got Demis Hassabis at the start of New Era of Discovery, AI and the Frontiers of Science. That's not necessarily big for shareholders. Maybe there's a long-term value for shareholders I don't see. That's not necessarily what Wall Street wants to hear. Now, I'm not that worried about what Wall Street wants to hear. Wall Street tends to be very short-term, but a fireside chat on the evolution of the developer craft could be interesting. Build the core skills to thrive as an AI era developer. Software engineering at the tipping point. Vibe once run anywhere with Google, Anti-Gravity, and Flutter. So there's a lot of, I think this session is going to be a lot about how to be a good coder with Google AI. Just really quick before we move into the stock buzz, the Dwarkesh podcast has a good pod from Eric Jang about building AlphaGo from scratch, walking through the modern frontier. AI systems are still using core ideas from AlphaGo. AlphaGo is the coding that Google DeepMind built, or the DeepMind team built, that defeated the world's best Go player. Move 37 was one of the critical moments in the shift in perception of what AI can do. So this is a pod I haven't watched yet, but this is on my list. Looking at buzz going forward for the stocks this week, Anthropic, which is less, it's not a stock, it's not a publicly traded company, but still I cover the pre-IPO companies when they're relevant. Anthropic's mythos is briefing global financial regulators on threats, crypto threats or, hacking threats to the global financial system. I personally tend to think this story is overblown. That they've pushed this story a lot, that Mythos is somehow this special thing that's going to change everything and everybody needs to be careful. And I think on the one hand, this is an exaggerated story. On the other hand, it's exaggerated that global banks are going to be able to be nimble enough to adapt in any meaningful way to the changes that are coming. We'll see. I think this may be one reason why something like X Money and other, cryptocurrencies may be more reliable for the future. X Money, other web finance and crypto companies are going to be more quick to adapt to security threats than staid bureaucratic banks. I could be wrong. That's what I think is going on. There's some buzz about whether OpenAI's path to an IPO is affected by the lawsuit that is pending between Elon Musk. There's a trial going on between Elon Musk and OpenAI. We'll see what happens. I'm a lawyer and I have no idea what's going to happen with that. So I've tried to understand it. I don't really understand it, and I don't think a lot of people do. I can guarantee you, a lot of people are talking about it, and a lot of people who are talking about it also don't understand it. Relevant to what we were talking about earlier with AI video generation, there's some reports that two Chinese AI companies, Byte, and we're going to talk about this in a little more detail. ByteDance and Kuaishou are leading in AI video generation. Direct challenge to OpenAI Sora. I don't know if OpenAI's video campaign is that much. This is one of those things where it's like, really? I think it's a direct challenge to Grok video generation, to Google's Veo generation, maybe some others like Runway. The really video generation is going to be dominated by whoever is the inference compute, because the demand for video generation is going to be so monstrously huge that you're just going to need a lot of inference compute. And that's why the Chinese companies might have a real advantage, because they're going to have even more inference compute than Google, because they have more electricity generation. You need electricity to run your inference compute. And when you get to that point where you need more electricity, you're running up against electricity supply. China's going to win that. I think that's where video generation is going to be. Here's a report on AI startup revenue, and Anthropic and OpenAI are dominating that. I think that's a little, and there's a pitch that it's, well, the frontier models are where all the money's going to be. It's like, no, we just don't know where the killer apps are yet. The other AI startups have just gotten started. There's going to be, we're early in the wave. There's a lot of potential for startups to come along that are going to have some killer app that's going to ride on an open source model or one of the frontier models that's going to make tons of money. And we just don't necessarily see it yet. And there's many layers. I'm going to talk about layers in a minute. There's many layers to this game. Chamath has a post about layers that we'll talk about. There's many layers to this game. There's a lot of money to be made in all the layers. I think the frontier models are going to be a big chunk of the money that's made. But there's application layers on top of it and infrastructure layers below it that are all really going to cash in. And as investors, there's a lot of opportunities to cash in. And US China AI chip talks remain unresolved. What I last saw was that there's some increase in NVIDIA's ability to sell chips into China, but not the most advanced ones, which is, I think, what most people expected. Just really quick on the Chinese video companies, we've got ByteDance, which is the one I've heard of. Their model family is called C-Dance. Their newest model's gone viral for realistic motion, strong facial consistency, which is an issue with Grok, by the way. Cinematic camera movement, surprisingly good audio sync, and strong prompt adherence. That's another big issue. Prompt adherence. That's the problem I had with Gemini today. And I've had that problem somewhat with Grok, I imagine, as well. TikTok and Douyin give ByteDance access to one of the world's largest labeled video data sets. I'm not sure what the labeling is that makes it useful, but they have a lot of video clips that they can use to help figure out what to develop. Billions of clips showing human movement, editing patterns, transitions, lip sync, emotional reactions, viral engagement behavior, physics, how physics works. That may be more valuable for video than internet text was for LLMs. We'll see about that. I think this is early yet, and I don't tend to trust news about China being in the lead, because a lot of times you hear that China's in the lead, and then all of a sudden they're not. The other one's Kuaishou. I haven't heard of. Kling AI, I have heard of. Kling is one of the first non-US video models that creators widely considered Sora class. I think that, didn't OpenAI discontinue Sora? Realistic physics, long coherent shots, smoother character motion, multi-shot continuity. Kling reportedly improved extremely quickly. Again, owns a massive short video platform. Chinese creator ecosystems rapidly stress test models. Product iteration cycles very fast. Multi-scene keyboards, voice cloning, multilingual native audio, high frame rates, and near 4K output. Near 4K output, that's impressive. I suspect that the Chinese models are not as good as that is being said. This is just my gut. They don't have the AI hardware that they need to really be that great, but they're going to have more inference compute than anybody else, and video generation is going to depend heavily on massive inference compute. So if you again, if it's you are good enough and you have the inference compute, you win. You doesn't mean other people don't win. You just win bigger. So the Chinese may have a real edge here. Will there be some regulatory constraints on them being able to sell video generation into Western markets or the United States? We'll see. I can't say enough. The real story is going to be, can China get enough hardware for the inference compute they need? Because they already have the electricity to support it. That's the big story about China versus the US. And then the big story is just, can the US continue to expand data centers, continue to expand inference compute, or is the US going to run into walls with expanding inference compute? Is SpaceX going to solve that problem by launching AI satellites into space? We'll see. Just other bits and pieces I want to hit you with in the rest of today's AI stock report. I posted on X a clip. I had this video on my Sunday Live, and it did okay. We had a good conversation. We had a good chat with it and everything. But I posted the direct my clipping of Ron Barron's appearance on CNBC. It was like 30 minutes long. I got it down to 4 minutes or so, and I summarized it. And I don't know what happened, but it went viral. 756,000 views. That's an hour ago. It may reach 1 million views. I don't know. I don't think Elon reposted it. I didn't see that it got Elon juice, but I saw a lot of quote posts, a lot of reposts, and a lot of replies. So this took off. What did Ron Barron say? Starlink's going to be worth up to $14 trillion. He had his napkin math. It was like, look, they're going to have 300 million customers. They're going to have enterprise. They're going to have government. They're going to have 70, 80% margins. And he predicts it's going to be worth $14 trillion. SpaceX, he said, worth 10 trillion to 30 trillion or more. He personally has an order for $1 billion in SpaceX stock in the IPO. Even though he already owns a lot of SpaceX stock, he wants more. He said he doesn't know if they'll give him as much as he wants in the IPO, but he's put in a big order. He would not bet on SpaceX Tesla merger. This was one of the hotter things that got people going because, well, that's not really what he said. Yeah, he said he doesn't know what they're going to do. He said specifically that SpaceX's investor relations guy said, you don't know what we're going to do, so don't tell people you know what we're going to do. And he says, you're right, I don't know what we're going to do. He said, yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. He wouldn't bet on it. He says he sees reason for it. He sees reason against it. If Elon decides he wants to do it, he's going to do it. And he'll probably support Elon when Elon makes that decision. But the thing that I took away from him is he said he would not bet on a SpaceX Tesla merger. There's this flurry of content in the Tesla content community, Tesla influencer community about this SpaceX Tesla merger. Like we haven't even had the SpaceX IPO yet. We got people saying that they're gonna buy in the SpaceX IPO. They're not gonna buy in the SpaceX IPO. They haven't seen the IPO documents yet. How do you know? Ron Barron has a really good reason why he's buying in the IPO because he sees it going to $14 trillion and it's, roughly a $2 trillion buy-in. Well, that's a 7x. Ron Barron sees whatever your terms are. I'm going to be one in on that. He talked about terafabs saving Tesla and SpaceX huge margins. He was really talking about more of an Elon context that Elon sees he needs 50 times the number of chips that are being available today, and he can't get the other providers to scale up. They're going to keep buying chips from everybody else, but he needs 50 times as much, and they're going to save a ton of money on margins, which I made a video about this recently. They're going to make a ton of money on margins. I've laid this out for the napkin math. An NVIDIA chip is a ballpark $40,000. If you knock out NVIDIA's margin, you knock out a chip fab's margin, you knock out a little other margin, you get your cost down to $4,000 instead of $40,000. Makes sense, right? And then you can scale your compute a lot more, and then you have a lot more inference compute, and then you're able to supply the demand. You're able to meet the demand with large supply at low cost. That's the challenge. That's the game. I'm saying, my opinion, the game for AI compute, the game for investing in AI stocks is who can supply the most inference compute at the lowest cost. I think SpaceX XAI will ultimately win that battle. I think China's in that battle, and I think Google's in that battle, and no one else. There's other people that are scaling inference compute, but nobody has the cost advantages of Google, SpaceX XAI, and China. And my favorite bit was right at the end of the clip. Ron Barron said, never bet against a guy with superpowers who will never give up. Never bet against Elon. If you're interested in reading something really well written, Cern Basser, my identical twin cousin, who I almost always agree with except about figure AI, we had a clash about that. That was in yesterday's video. He has a great article on X about memory, about understanding the memory that goes into the AI hardware. I am going to do a mini deep dive on memory sometime in the near future. I will not be as extensive as this article. I'll probably study this article before I do it. But I basically have three things I'm going to talk about, which is HBM memory, DDR memory, and SRAM memory. There's other like more specific things you can get into, but I think those three are the big ones. If you want more depth, CERN has it. He's really good. Another great article on X that's highly relevant to AI and especially to Tesla investors is Genma, Genma JP drove Xpeng's self-driving software, self-driving system for several hours and noted like, I don't know, 12 interventions and said it wasn't close to Tesla. So you're going to hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, Xpeng's got this great self-driving system, and this guy's got this great self-driving system." And the reality is, when it comes to self-driving and when it comes to humanoid robotics, Tesla has more machinery, more inference compute experiencing the real world in real time, and more compute training compute to learn from it, and a great team. So you're going to hear other people saying, "Oh, they have this. Oh, they have this. Oh, here's a demo that looked really good." If you don't have the compute, if you don't have the inference data, if you don't have the inference compute on out in the field, if you don't have the data generation, the data flywheel, and you don't have the training compute, you can't run all that together, you're not going to beat Tesla at this. In my opinion, everyone's 5 years behind, if not farther. It just it's there's too much for them to do to catch up. Another little detail: I'm a fairly heavy user of Grok. They are now offering Super Grok Heavy for a 67% off discount, $100 a month. I don't think I use it enough to justify buying it. I'm using ChatGPT, Codex, and Grok for my coding. I've been so busy with creating these videos that I have not been doing much coding lately. I'm hoping I get my rhythm down on making these videos and I'm able to get back to coding, but my suspicion is I will not be using coding enough to justify paying for this. And I'm still mad at myself that I paid $20 a month for Gemini just now. I'm probably going to stop that because it was so disappointing, but I'll give it a try for the rest of the month and see if it gets better. I mentioned Chamath before. He has a great post. This is from May 15th, so it's a few days ago, talking about the layers of what's going on in AI. I think Chamath is sort of like hit and miss. Sometimes he's brilliant, sometimes he's way off. And I think this one is not dead on, but pretty good, worth a read, thinking about the layers. I talk about these layers in my own videos. I just did a video about systemic risk in the world of AI, and I talked pretty similarly about layers. I think we have different perspectives on the layers, but I think it's a good thought piece. It's a good thought piece for thinking about it. You can see he's got, these different layers: models, execution, application. I do my layers differently, but just like CERN has a different picture of memory than I do, but it's still worth reading CERN's picture. His picture might be better than mine. I think my sense of the layers of AI is better than Chamath's, but it's worth getting his perspective too. He's not dumb, right? I'm not sure he's always right. I'm not sure he's not biased. I'm not sure he's not wrong, but it's worth reading his perspective. And the problems I was having today with Grok inference compute and Gemini inference compute, Chamath was having with Anthropic. I had this problem with Codex a little while ago where I, ran out of compute on my account, and I'm like, I'm paying a lot. I think it was like I used like 100 minutes of Codex, and I ran out of compute, and I had to wait 5 hours before I could use it again. And it was like 25% of my allotment for the week. Again, I'm not that heavy. I'm not putting that much time into coding, so it wasn't that damaging to me. And I now, when I'm using code, when I am coding heavy, I have Codex supervised Grok doing coding, right? Because Grok is cheaper, and Grok is actually pretty good. So I have, I think this is one of the things we're going to see implemented in the world of AI, especially in the world of coding, but in general, is you'll have some super AI that's making decisions about what level of compute do we need for this task. Let's hand that off to this level of compute that uses less and costs less. And you're going to actually have AI deciding what levels of compute are needed for what tasks. Chamath noticed Anthropic needs to solve the computer power problem, or they'll be the friends of the AI era. He ran assembly complicated stock screening on all four major AIs. The first three returned comparable results. Claude refused to do the work. I'm seeing this on each AI at different moments. So the question is, who is able to consistently deliver reasonably good inference consistently all the time at scale, at reasonable cost? That's the game. I think that's the game going forward. There's more than one game, but I think that's the ultimate big game going forward. You can have the smartest model in the world, but if I ask it a question that says, I don't have time for you right now, that's not useful to me. And that's where demand is going to grow so fast that it's really about who can scale up supply, inference compute. Please consider supporting me as a YouTube channel member, as a Patreon supporter, or as an X subscriber in order to get access to my options videos. You get early access to some of my regular videos. And thank you so much for watching.